Greetings, Jedi traders. David here of TradingFibs.com to bring you the daily trend and weekly recap focus for the futures for May 27th, 2016, ending week 21 in the markets. As always, please seek financial advisement when trading with your money, as these videos are for educational purposes only to support your knowledge in the market. See what's going through my head on any given day. Always make sure you have a solid trading plan and always manage your stop when placing a trade. All right, let's take a look at the markets today, Friday, last Friday of the month. Two markets looking at 6 setups today, 4 on the NQ, 2 on the ES for a total of 124 ticks. NQ 97, NQ always being a nice runner during the week. Let's take a look at the two major trends of the day as price action out of the gate, actually, after a 51.44. That's right. After, let's go back here. This was the picture here. Let's open this up. There was the picture of the market pre-market, and as market was just about to open up, you at this point technical momentum's to the downside, and we just turned that right around, and there it is. Buy signal on two charts, 50 above 144 at that point. NQ and ES got the jump. It was the YM that was struggling a little bit there. So trend number 1, and through the majority of the session, just needing to wait until trend number 2. Let's get that back there. So there's trend number 1, and it's setups on the NQ. Again, a delayed entry there past the buy signal. As price action finally got up above the 50 and the 144, nothing on the YM and ES. Buy signal on 3 charts in the green. That's all you needed. And trend number 2 of the day. So between the opening and the close, it was really nothing but chop here. Not a bad setup on a pullback, soft pullback here on the NQ. Classic entry right here on the ES. Buy signal. It took all day. That's right. All day to the last 30 minutes of the session to get that nice run up and close that out just before the end of the session. So, and for the week, wrapping up 21 setups, 444 ticks across the board. Again, NQ coming in at the top. Taking a look at the econ data for today, it was about the GDP and corporate profits, but really sitting out there was Janet Yellen speaking, interview actually through Harvard Business School. I believe it was Harvard Business, or I know it was at Harvard. Just reconfirming that as long as the economic data shows that markets or economic numbers are improving, rate hikes are on the table. And so the market went ahead with just that news. First sold off here as she was speaking around this time frame right here. And then markets lifted right back up into a holiday weekend. So markets getting a nice little push there. Trend number 1 of the day right there is the AD line pushed upside. Pullback stopped you out. Little bit of a possibility of a move here at the European close. Again, Yellen speaking here came with a little bit of swift move downside for a couple ticks. And then back to the upside to close out the session. Let's take a look at the 5-minute charts. It's price action here on the crude to the upside, holding at today's open for the majority of the first hour, then breaking upside above the 25-minute open range, a little bit of chop, and eventually pushing as the rest of the market into the holiday weekend up to the average high. Right up there around 49.56. Same picture all across the board. ES pretty much sticking to the 25-minute open range for the majority of the session, breaking above the CAM high to finish off the session. That was trend number 2 up here, up to the average high. And YM right here, again, same picture in holding at the Globex high. Globex low for the session all across the board. Globex low. And price action retracing to yesterday's high here on the NQ and pushing right back up to pretty much today's high. Let's take a look at the daily trend charts. Let's actually jump in. I'm going to jump in. We got crude here, but I wanted to go ahead and show you a nice picture here. There you go. Look at that. That's the GC. There's the gold there. Price action on the gold today without the 51.44 chart. You can see that represented here by the horizontal bottom. 2 days in a row we've had some nice price action on the gold as it's been coming down here. Gold opening up. Again, here's 3 charts in the red, so early entry. And then price action. Actually, I think gold opening up at 8:20, I believe, East Coast time. But then anyway, doesn't matter. Three charts in the red. Pretty solid confirmation. The trend is intact. Pull back, whether you manage that on the way down or look for a re-opportunity for re-entry. There it was, sell signal, 4 charts in the red. Beautiful entry downside. Pull back upside, a little bit of chop mid-session, and then breaks for the last move on 4 charts in the red. Take a look at the euro here. As price action on the euro headed downside, 4 charts in the red here. But let's get a time frame on this. That's your European markets. Here we are, and price action in the U.S. session. Several opportunities for your entry. Sell signal downside. 4 charts in the red. 3 charts in the red, and 4 charts in the red downside. All right, let's jump into the crude here. As price action we just saw on the 5-minute chart. Again, pretty much the early portion of the session was chop until price action broke upside. Here you go, T3 moving averages breaking upside with an opportunity up here. Slight, maybe stopped out. Again, if stop is at swing size, you're in the trade to the long, holding above the T350 and the 50 MA here. Here again, for the majority of the session, technical momentum in the green and to the upside. Taking a look at the YM, price action, again, not going very far. A lot of chop action, again, for the majority of the session. There's your pre-market. You can see the majority of price action pretty much in the PM session. Here was your early morning drop on the 51.44. There it is back there, as we saw in the beginning. There it is, 51.44 pre-market. We thought we were headed downside, but things turned around, give us a little opportunity to jump up. Buy signal upside. Again, looking for all charts in sync. Very difficult on the YM today until the very end, and so that was the best of the setups there on the YM. NQ across the board, again, a little bit smoother. Nice action here. 2 charts in the green as price action, again, delayed entry here. Break above the T350 actually was the opportunity as price action broke to the upside here. Offered a small amount of ticks to the upside. Again, pull back here. And then back upside, so setup number 2 here. Small couple re-entries down here for a short scalp, and then bang to the upside. Price action closes out the trend number 2, significant trend of the day to the upside. All right, take a look at ES, price action again, looking for as many charts in sync. It wasn't really until the afternoon session right there, about 40 minutes to the close. Price action on a buy signal, 4 charts in the green, 50 above 44, and we punch up, and that was a nice ending move for the day on the ES. Otherwise, it was small pockets as 3 charts in sync here on market price action open, which was one of the setups, first setup we had today on the ES. So other than that, it was pretty much chop until Yellen came on. A little downside movement as we saw in the NQ, probably the best here. NQ here, sell signal here, pull back, and right there, that little pocket thinking, yep, that might end up running, but take one contract off and stopped out at break even, so no trend in play. All right, taking a look at the daily gaps and fib projection levels. Let's take a look at the fib projection levels as price action midnight open 44.95.50. NQ coming down just a slight, and then bang right up to the target high and above, closing above. YM really never been able to grab the high. 17.823 was the midnight open, and ES grabbing 220.90.50, tapping it, going below, and right back upside to close out. The highs around 20.98.50. All right, so looking ahead and recap here, price action on the 3 indices in crude. As we mentioned each day, we have 2 open gaps on the YM downside, 3 open gaps on the ES, and we have one down here, 48.75 on the NQ. Price action here on the crude still has having an open gap down below. We opened down. We had an open gap formed on the crude downside at the open, but managed to move that upside and close that open gap. Again, moving into next week, you want to watch for 55.41 upside, as that's the next open gap, and vice versa, downside. The first line would be 46.43. Again, ES, 3 downside, 2 downside on the YM, and 1 downside on the NQ. Take a look at volume profile, price action on the volume profile. Again, here we have 600-day VPOC. Last 3 days, pretty much side action as we were all anticipating some big news out of Yellen, as if that was going to happen. And then looking at GDP and pre-holiday weekend. So really Tuesday being a significant day where we opened up those open gaps. Price action really shooting up here. We could see price action for the majority of the week to the upside. 600-day VPOC down below 42.90. So keep those in mind. If price action ends up retracing in any way next week, 2074.50, as well as the crude, whether it's VPOC's downside or open gaps upside and below, yet seems to be seen. So we jump into the daily big pick. What is the probability? What is the likelihood probability? Again, intraday you have to be ready in both directions. What's the likelihood probability that we continue upside? Well, it's still pretty strong. We've only had it as a pullback here in an upward trend as the 50 is well above the 144. If next week crude ends up breaking the 50 EMA, we look to the 144 EMA, we look to the 50 and the 200 on a daily chart for support as well, former fib levels. So crude next week, watch again for the daily gap to be a target, 46.43 downside. If price action ends up staying upside, then we look up to 55.75 as the daily gap on crude, also up at the level up here at 55.41, which also is around the level of a fib extension, as we see here, 55.75. Taking a look at the three major indices as we do each day. Again, well above the 50-200 MA, 50 above 200 MA. The low of the week here, 43.49.50. Never really looked back. Print on Monday, upside all across the board on three indices. Diminishing volume as we closed out the week. And price action, again, we confirmed uptrends. That's where we went this week. As you can see, price action on a pullback. 50s were able to break above the 144s. As we move into next week, first week of June, upwards trend confirmed. Watch for the pullbacks to the 50 and the 144s. Look for any pullback to the 50 and the 200 SMAs. Again, we would look first to the 4-hour chart for any support. Watch price action to retrace in either the beginning of the week or the end of the week. Doesn't matter. You just want to keep those levels in mind. However, so if you match that up, you have a 50 and a 144 here on the NQ. You go to your daily gaps. You got levels from 2077 down to 2039. You come back here, 2077 to 2039. You look at your daily big pick. That was ES there. Taking a look at the NQ open gap here at 48.75. So you got yourself a line here, 48.75. 48.75, and now you got yourself a well, let's ballpark it right here, one tick above. There you go. So that is the first line in the sand I'd be looking to if price action pulls back to close out a gap. Watch that 50 and 144. If we find the support off of any of these three lines here as we lead into next week, all right, if we in any way retrace to those, look for a pullback and a bounce back up. Look for the intraday opportunity to go long again. All right, so what is the probability or possibility that we end up going long for the week? Well, taking a look at the economic data for the week, we have a Monday holiday session. Really, things, whether it's ISM, which is just another key data, jobless claims, it's non-farm payrolls on Fridays. That's going to be the lead-in for the week as we roll into contract rollover. As we roll into the next FOMC minutes, likelihood we also have Brexit, Brexit on the table. So that might be an indicator that markets might end up moving in some way, whether it's to the upside or saying, all right, we've tested once enough and we'll pull back for some profit taking as the contract rolls out. All right, that concludes an insight into the daily trend and weekly recap and brief outlook for next week. Feel free to stop by at tradingfibs.com or any of my social media outlets to obtain more information. My trading mantra of one simple strategy, any market, any chart, any time frame will keep you disciplined. You can find me every day on Twitter at tradingfibs. And as always, I leave the crystal ball to the experts. I only trade what's in front of me and on my charts. And as always, leave your bias at the door when trading. Jedi traders, this is my last trading session from Phoenix, Arizona. will be out for the week. So weekly recaps and daily trends will resume after the first week of June, so June 6th, moving to the Pacific Northwest. So, signing off from last session in Arizona. Looking forward to seeing you all on the Twitter waves and in the trading room in the weeks to come from a much cooler place. Hey guys, have yourself a Blue Zone day. Have a great week. Watch those charts. And as I said, leave the bias at the door. Have yourself a Blue Zone day, good night, and good trading.